Thank you very much. Today is July 18th of 2023, and welcome to the Town of Rocky Mountain House regular council meeting. I will now call the meeting to order. Before we adopt the agenda, I believe there's already a number of changes. I'll start with a change to 7.3, Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I would like to add 7.3, an invitation from Town Council to County Council to attend Market on Main with us.
At the booth?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. 8.2, I have to add an invitation to the Consul General of Japan in Calgary invitation due to the deadlines. So I'll add that to 8.2. Will be Consul General invitation. And everyone, I forwarded it just before the meeting, so it's all on your emails. Then 13.4, we're going to table this agenda item to August 15th of 2023, so that the document that we were going to discuss is finalized and signed, and Mr. Kraus is able to attend that meeting as well. So that's 13.4. And then Councillor Phillips, did you want to address 13.5?
Yes, I just wanted to move item 13.5 to the August 1st meeting.
Thank you very much. With all of those 4 changes, is there anything else that anybody saw on today's agenda that needs to be adjusted? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Councillor Phillips.
I will make the motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Today, we do not have any delegations, so we're moving on to the adoption of the previous minutes for July 4th of 2023. Does anybody have any changes or omissions or problems with that agenda? So could I have a motion? Councillor Caprero.
I will make the motion to adopt the regular council meeting minutes of July 4th, 2023.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So we have no delegation business today. We're moving forward to old business, and it is the RFD for Riverview Phase 2B. And I just wanted to also point out that Councillor Schiphalt gave his regards today, that he is at an important funeral and couldn't attend. Thank you. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, as Council is aware, Council has asked administration to draft an expression of interest for the possible joint partnership, or P2, with a private developer for the development of the Riverview area for residential properties. So administration has drafted the expression of interest. We were just bringing it to Council to ensure we captured what Council was visioning before releasing it out. In a quick summary of the expression of interest, so the town would maintain ownership of the land, be responsible for subdivision, plus the cost of any off-site infrastructure that would be needed for the development of the land, which in this case would be a lift station plus the sanitary force main going to, or gravity main going to that lift station that's not in the development area. Whereas the developer would be responsible for the design of the infrastructure and all the hard on-site services, water, sewer, road structure, sidewalks, streetlights, power, gas, telecommunications. And then the idea behind the P2 is the developer would be reimbursed plus profit as per lot sold. And the town would also recover the costs of the land, basically cost of subdivision, and a proportionate amount of the off-site lift station. So we're just looking for Council's feedback if this is what Council wants released.
And this is referred to as a P2 because there's 2 partners?
Private public partnership, yes.
Private, and that's what the P2 means? Did anybody have any questions or comments? Counselor Hutchinson?
Mr. Kraus, is there any reserves or anything in budget, any money set aside for development like this in our capital plan?
No. No, not specifically, no.
And can you, so with that question being answered, the lift station then would be a capital cost that we would have to debenture then? Or,
We would have to review that. It'd either come through unrestricted surplus. I mean, we do have some land sales that happened in 2023, where those monies haven't been allocated yet, the old rec building, so that could go into land development, for example. That is coming to council. There's a discussion for reserves on council in the August meeting, so I mean, that'd be more of a discussion on council then, if there's specific designations of funds that come from land sale to go back into development. But funds have come in from the sale of property.
so just to clarify, that the concept behind this private-public partnership is so that the town doesn't have to put out any expenses to develop lots for sale. And the partner that invests in this would get a share of the profits as those lots were sold. And then the third thing with this specific project would be that we would have to put in the lift station and am I recalling right that it's about $5 million, or how close am I on that?
No, the lift station, I think, was estimated at around $800,000.
Oh, I don't know where I got 5 million from.
Plus, you'd have to take the gravity main to it, and then plus the main from the lift station to the lagoon, basically. So you're probably looking at, I don't have the figures in front of me, but like a total of 1.5 million is probably realistic
Okay,
for the whole
okay.
infrastructure.
So to do this, there would be a capital cost of 1.5 million-ish that we would not recover, generally speaking, from this. I mean, a small portion would be for per lot, right? Like, but generally, we wouldn't recover that.
We would recover it when the whole development area, the whole of Riverside is complete, because it'd be through an off-site levy.
And we're just looking for interest in this to be phased and not the whole area. Just sort of like to put feelers out to see if someone is interested in partnering. And it could be expanded, you know, because sometimes if you do a project of scale, you know, like you could put just as much work into it for 20 lots as you would for 40 lots. We could deal with that later, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's an expression of interest to see if a developer would be interested in a P2. Then if someone is, then there would be negotiations between council and the developer.
Okay. And so that would be, we would have the say on that before anything actually was finalized in a contract, right?
Yes.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Sorry, Counselor Hutchinson.
I'm kind of sitting on the fence with this, as in the RFD, there is a number of existing lots that are still available for development. I would like to see what it looks like to entering into a P2 on industrial land as opposed to residential first. That's kind of where I stand with that.
Okay, there was a tie there, so I will go to Counselor Phillips first and then Counselor Boniface.
Thank you. So I agree with Councillor Hutchinson on the industrial part as well, but I would like to see both. I would like to see us look at P2s for residential and industrial. I know we do have some lots in town that are available now. The problem is if we don't look at the future today, by the time we would look at this, all those lots will be gone, and now we're in a position where we don't have any lots in town. So, you know, this is a future project that will probably take quite some time to come to fruition if it does. So I would like to see us look at a P2 for both residential and industrial.
Counselor Boniface.
I agree with Councillor Phillips. I think we need to develop now. I have certainly would support also doing industrial land. We have a major gas plant coming in close to us here. Talking with some of those people, you've got executives that are coming from all over and they want executive homes. They don't want a starter home. They want executive homes, and it has to be lots big enough to hold that house. And you're right, Counselor, we will run out of lots before, I mean, this will take time to put together. It's not gonna happen overnight. So I believe we need to be proactive and get at this. I'm happy with what's been done here, and I would support it.
I'm just gonna let Mr. Kraus clarify. It looks like you want to
Yeah,
clarify something, yes?
So in the report is what lots are available now, but council needs to be aware that the developer's also got tentative subdivision plans in place, so that developer would go to the next phase if he sells out the lot. So it's not like those lots are sold and there's nothing left. It's just make council aware. So.
Yeah, so I personally feel that, this is an excellent time to encourage development of every possible area inside town limits, commercial, residential, private developers. This is just that it wasn't feasible for us, but maybe some developer could come along with some cost-saving measures and take a chance on being able to do this if they have their own engineers on site and their own company that does, that's qualified to do this type of work. I think this is a good step forward, and all it is right now is we're just searching out to see if we can find a partner. And if we can't find a partner, I think we're still going to encourage the developers that are already putting through lots, and we want to keep building because, we certainly need to catch up with the growth of Alberta and keep moving forward. So that was my opinion on that. So would anybody like to make a motion at this point? Counselor Phillips, you're looking to see if someone else wanted to, or?
I didn't want to get in a tie with Councillor Boniface again.
I'll break the tie.
So yes, I'd like to make a motion that administration look into the feasibility of a P2 partnership for the lots in Riverview 2, Phase 1, 2B.
Thank you very much.
Is that clear?
Release the expression of interest as presented.
As presented,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, so with no further adjustments to that motion, all in favor of Counselor Phillips' motion? And those opposed? And that's carried. So moving forward in the agenda, we are at 6.2, the draft regional goals. So this came back from ICC. Mr. Kraus, did you want to speak to this, or is there somebody on ICC that would like to? That's me. Do you want to move forward with this? Is there any questions or comments on this? Because it came back from ICC to move forward. Is there any questions or comments on the documents? Counselor Phillips.
Yes, just, this was extensively talked about at the Tri-ICC meetings to come up with a regional vision and regional goals. I think this document does have that, idea in mind, and it captures the discussion that was had by all three councils.
Also, there was not much changed from what we presented and discussed previously. So if there's no questions, we're looking for a motion to accept the regional goals and actions. Councillor Boniface.
I will make a motion to accept the regional vision statement as presented.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions on comments on that motion? Seeing that there's none, I'll call that to vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Mr. Kraus, did we miss something? Oh, okay, just checking. You're giving, I'm just reading your facial expression, so I'm just like, did I miss something? Okay, so moving forward in the agenda, we're at 6.3, the summer games bid update, and I'm gonna turn that to Councillor Hutchinson. Councillor Bonfils, did you want to shut your light off again? That's okay, I just was like, I didn't think you had something.
So we met last week, our bid committee, and we have gone through and assigned the expenditure items to all of the members there. So sport, facility, transportation, all the way through. We had on our facility, our sport and facility team was Wes and Matt from the county, which we're going to go and explore some of the facilities and see if they're suitable, what can be used. We're looking at, with the partnership with the county, looking at possibly events at David Thompson High School, possibly using Leslieville, Caroline as well. Caroline had apparently a beach volleyball tournament last weekend, so they were going to be looking at those. And staff would be bringing back forward to the committee, you know, numbers for upgrades and stuff that we, if we need, what we need, to be put into the budget. A lot of the numbers we're looking at through the Grand Prairie games that they had last time, because they set their budget categories were exactly the same as what this one would be used, whereas with the Masters games, we had concerts added, we had, it was a little bit different format, but then on Friday, myself, Michelle Swanson, Jana Thompson, and Jamie Jaco will be doing a host tour to Okotoks. We managed to get in to see, spend the time or a couple hours with them to see what their, every games that they have, they always have the next games hosting it, come and do a tour of facilities, their games office, all that kind of thing. So that's going to be
So
quite exciting.
Okotoks was the last,
It's happening, it's Thursdays, their opening ceremonies.
okay.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah, so we're moving on. We had letter going out to community groups for letters of support. We sent it out to 14 groups already. And that'll be an ongoing list as we can think of who, what, where might work in with the sports that we're looking at having.
and I have a couple questions. So based on the evaluations of our current facilities, do we know yet if we meet the criteria for the games? Like, I had someone approach me about, like, the baseball diamonds. Have we measured them? Do they actually fit the criteria that's needed? Because we're still short, what, one baseball diamond?
Well, that's why, you know, with having the county on board with us, the David Thompson School will be developing new facilities out there. So there's a thought that maybe all of the ball will be played out at David Thompson, or softball played at one, hardball at another. Wes can add some more on that one.
So did we measure to see if our current facilities meet any of the criteria?
They do.
They do?
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
excellent,
just
because that was a
using our
question, right?
GIS system, able to go in and measure the size of all our ball diamonds, the soccer fields that we currently have. And that's part of where Mr. Martinson and myself, in our facility tour on Thursday, will visit some of the rural communities, and I know they're developing more facilities in Leslieville, and just making sure that what they've got and what we've got here in town will be able to manage. And then we certainly will have that information for our next bid committee meeting, and then our plan is we'll be bringing that, so a report back to council on August the 15th, along with our budget, just to present, and here's what we got for facilities, here's what our proposed budget is, and you know, some of the facilities may require upgrades or those types of things, and we'll try to, you know, best guesstimate dollars as to what that would look like. So,
So those upgrades, if they're required, because we haven't finalized this process yet, would that be a responsibility of us, or does another group come up with that? Like, will we be given money from a third party, like a government body, to upgrade those, or are we responsible ourselves to upgrade those with capital costs?
we do get $420,000 from the province as part of that. How we expend that, if it goes towards the improvements of facilities, other partnerships, again, determining what needs to get done, but that will be the responsibility of the municipality and our partners in making sure that we have the facilities. I know from track and field as an example, we only have one long jump pit, we need two, right? So there are gonna be things that will need to be updated, but that's where Mr. Martinson and myself will have that look and say, okay, here's what we've got, here's what we need, and where do we go from here in order to make this bid happen?
Okay, and have we reached out to the school division about any of this? Because I know like there's community groups through parent, I don't know what you call it, parent fundraisers that are currently looking to put in, you know, a track and field, something or other at the St. Matthew School and a park at Pioneer School. And I know there was a community group that was trying to upgrade the diamonds because we're short diamonds for our own leagues for youth at the Rocky Elementary Cole School. Like, have we had any, like, conversations with those groups yet about, you know, what their plans are for private, you know, upgrades?
At this point, I've had a casual conversation with Mike Lundstrom, who's the Waterville School Division Facility Maintenance Manager. But nothing specific on those types of things. I know we've reached out to both school divisions for letters of support, and we've had some preliminary emails back and say they'll support our bid. And then obviously, as we move forward with the bid, you know, there's gonna be discussions had as to what needs to be improved and whether it's on municipal property, county property, or school property. Have to work out how that would work.
Yeah, I've gotten back correspondence from both school districts, very, very positive on hosting something like this, and that whatever we need, you know, again, it's a little premature, we haven't got the approval yet, but it's exciting that we have 3 full years to make it happen. And having said that, it can be, you know, if it's a budget thing, even for the schools, it can possibly be over, you know, 3 years. It's not like it's happening next year, so.
And do we have a plan yet for volunteers that are gonna be required?
No, right now, we're just looking at the budget numbers on what would be needed for support for volunteers, be it you know, complimentary lunch rooms, things like that set up, and transportation and whatnot.
In the bid criteria though, there was a big, what was the number? What's the number of volunteers that we need to make this happen? Is it
Gonna say-
volunteers or volunteer hours?
4,
It was about
Fourth.
1,400 is what they estimated you would need for volunteers.
Okay.
but
14,
we're also
15.
doing it in a split shift. So Okotoks right now is having all their volunteers in a 4-day period. With us, we'll be doing, for instance, it'll start Monday, the events will happen Monday, Tuesday, half a day Wednesday, that shift leaves, the next shift comes Wednesday, Thursday, then Friday. So,
Right.
or we may go weekend, we haven't hammered down the dates yet. But I think that will help us with the volunteers being spread out more than all concentrated. And if we're bringing in events in the county, be it David Thompson or Leslieville, that's also a good draw for additional volunteers that may not, you know, want to volunteer if we were having it right just in Rocky. So we're hopeful. We had 900 volunteers for the Masters Games, and
But some of those volunteers came from outside the community because they were already involved in the Masters Games. Is that not correct?
no, not, I think we'll see more with the youth games, because the parents come with them, and they're like, I'm here anyways, can I volunteer? But we'll kind of get some more information when we go on our tour and speak with them there, but
And
Yeah.
when is your tour again?
we're going Friday.
Friday. Oh, yeah, great. My concern is that I've attended a lot of events over the over the last year, and everyone's crying for volunteers. Like there's a lot of community groups that are in desperate need in order to continue for volunteers, and so us to find 1,400. I mean, it's hard to find someone to paint baseball bleachers on the weekend. Yeah, so just like that's a concern I have.
I think
And-
it's, again, with it being youth games, you're getting a broader support base than what we did with the adult games. You know, where you've got, like you said, all those different school groups, you know, the volleyball club, the basketball club.
But these are the groups that are reaching out to me saying like the people that were junior forest wardens on Sunday night, the two volunteers, the only two that they could find in Rocky, you know, they're desperately looking for more. Those people don't even have kids in the program right now. That's how hard they're having a hard time. I mean, it's a concern. So I want to know if we have a plan, like to find volunteers or, you know, where we're at with that, because
At this time, it's too premature. I mean, we will find out in November if, nope,
I think that-
September, they come here to do the facility tour. And then I think it's October that it will be announced. And like I said, at that time, we have more than 3 years. You know, part of our job is to, if we get the games, is to promote it and get hard onto the pavement and just making sure that everybody in and around the community are aware of what's happening. And I'm pretty confident that the people of our community, county and town would be on board, so we will have a plan once we find out.
excellent. That answers all of my today's questions. Thank you very much for all the information. Anybody else have any questions before Mr. Arment leaves? Okay, well, thank you very much for the update. We didn't need a resolution for that. Not looking for anything, so just a resolution for information. Would somebody I can make that motion. I'd like to make a motion to accept for information the report for 7.3 for the bid for the youth games. Any further questions or comments before we vote on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So that concludes 6.3, and we're moving into new business at 7.1. And this is, I'll turn to Mr. Kraus.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Worship. I'll have Ms. Breeze present the policy to council.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Breeze.
Thank you, Your Honor, Council. So the routine disclosure policy is before you. So this was actually discussed at the rates and fees bylaw this year as well. So the fees have been added into our rates and fees. So just an overview of this policy. So basically this policy is to support a culture of open, respectful, and transparent government. We are getting a lot of requests for information, and basically it streamlines the process. So this is to provide open access to public records that can be released through routine and active disclosure, while still protecting the privacy of personal information for records that are in the custody and control of the town, without having to make a formal access request under the FOIA Act. So this allows, so there's still an application form attached to this. So if somebody submits an application for routine disclosure, what I would do is take a look at it and say, okay, this is public information. You don't actually need this form. If it pertains to engineering operations, I'd send the form over to them to release the information, as long as it's not a huge amount of documentation, because then it would come back, because we gotta make sure that the rates and fees bylaw is attached as well, and then the information will be released. And then also what I'm going to do is keep records of the information that's being requested, because if it's the same stuff over and over and over again, that's when our communication coordinator will come into play and make sure that stuff is being posted on the website. Because obviously Laura does a great job putting the information out there, but you know, sometimes it's information that we don't even realize that people are asking for consistently. And basically like just have a procedure in place, and that's basically what this deals with.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or comments about can I ask a question about what is our current, I've been asked this and I'm just not really clear when I get asked it. What is our current procedure? So if somebody wants something from the town, they'll come and fill out a FOIP form for it, and then they'll have to pay a certain amount per page or per hour or both?
It depends on the request. So we have people coming to the front counter, we have people emailing myself. It really depends. So if I know right off the bat it's gonna be a fairly substantial FOIP request, what I'll tell them is there's an initial fee for $25. Basically, everybody pays that initial fee if they're filling out a FOIP request. The only exception would be is if it's personal information. We do not charge for that. Under the FOIP legislation, we're not allowed to. And then I'll have a look at what they have in their application, and usually what I do is I review it at my desk, and then I'll answer them back by phone call or email and go, I might need to give them like an actual quote. So if it costs more than $150 to produce the documentation, and we've had a few that have been over that amount, they have to pay a 50% deposit on the estimate. In cases where I know it's a simple request that's only gonna take me, say, an hour or two, that's obviously under the $150. I just let them know what the cost should be about, and then it gets done a lot faster that way. This is a different application. This is for information that should be fairly relatively available, but sometimes it's a matter of like, so in the policy, so our CEO reviewed it and he did add a line, you know, if it's something that's available on the website, we're just gonna guide them straight to the website. And so, because that's what the website is for. It's not for people to phone in and say, well, I would like a copy of this and this and this and this and that. So it's kind of to avoid that, steer them towards the website, because all of our information, bylaws and policies that are current are on the website already. So if somebody wants like 20 different bylaws, well then that's when I want the form filled out, because that's gonna require a bit of work to be sending them that information. And the fees in the rates bylaw is basically the same rate as what FOIP, we charge for FOIP, which is $6.75 for a quarter of an hour. So it isn't a hefty charge by any means. It works out to be about $27 an hour.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was doing that math in my head.
Yeah.
Did you see my tongue moving when I was doing
Yes.
that?
Yeah, they break it down by quarter of an hour for
Yep.
whatever reason, so
Yeah,
then-
because it might take only 5 minutes to do
exactly,
something. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And so we're just updating our current policy, that's to change some verbiage in there?
The old policy is written a very long time ago, and the MGA has changed multiple times.
Oh, okay.
So most of it has actually been repealed in the MGA itself. So the old, it's not even applicable today.
Okay. So, thank you for explaining all that, because sometimes I'm like, why are we doing this? I don't understand why we have an old one and a new one, and then there's lots of red and all that sort of stuff, so thank you for
Oh, I
clarifying.
didn't even take the old one and
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah, okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you very much. Counselor Hutchinson?
I'll make a motion.
Yes, absolutely.
Be resolved that council approve routine disclosure policy 003/2023 as presented.
Thank you very much. All in if there's no further questions or comments, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So moving forward in the agenda, we're at 7.2, the RFD for bylaw 2023/12, responsible pet ownership bylaw, and this is our first reading. Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So, I mean, this is being presented as a bylaw, but really it's a discussion among council on service level. So, just to provide history to council, back in 2020, the costs for animal control were getting fairly significant, of over $30,000 per year. So at that time, council was discussing, is us controlling cats, licensing cats, you know, a service that the town wants to continue on to. So administration was tasked at that time to look at, one, a bylaw to remove us from that service, or to find a more cost-effective way of providing that service. So we did, and that was through the Roar Society, where those costs were dropped from the 30,000 down to 15,000 for the service of kenneling cats. So now this has come back up again for, costing of kenneling and taking care of cats to a significant amount. So council has asked again to look at this service. So we have drafted a bylaw that would remove the service of us licensing and controlling and picking up of cats. And we would just strictly focus on dogs. So that's really the discussion for council today, and if council wants to proceed with that change in service level, then the bylaw is suitable to that. I think I want to make a distinction here, just for the sake of the public. There's really two types of services here for the kenneling. So what the town needs operationally is just a service to hold an animal for a maximum period of 10 days for the owner to pick up the animal. In the case of dogs, that generally happens within the first or second day, so it's very quick for dogs. Cats seem to take that a longer period, and if they're picked up at all. But that's the service the town requires operationally for animal control. Now, at the end of the 10 days, it's up to the town or whoever the kennel holder is, or a rescue society, what to do with that cat. So the town would turn over that animal either to the service provider who's kenneling it, and if the service provider doesn't want it, then the town obviously has to make a decision what to do with the animal. What's getting confused in the public is, I think, is also a service of a rescue society. And if council wants to actually support that service. So if you break it up into two, that's totally two different types of services. So for the operational, like I say, it's just a kennel, maximum 10 days, then the animal, a decision is made on the animal. Where a rescue society is a separate service altogether, and that's one that council will have to decide probably sometime in the future if council wants to support that type of service, if that makes sense.
So, that sounds great. So today, the reason for this is because our previous service provider couldn't come, we no longer have them as a service provider. And so now we have, administration has figured out a way to address continuing a level of service for dogs, but we don't have a continuing level of service for cats for the interim until we make our next decision on service levels, which generally we do in October. Does that sound like kind of from what we have to make the decision on today, is that we can continue with the service level for dogs, and then that's what this bylaw addresses, and then we can do our next step later, but we need to address this today because we've got something set up already for dogs. Am I summarizing what we have to do today?
Basically, your worship, unless council wants to make that decision on service level for cats today. I mean, that's up to council. Just to let council know, I mean, currently, just for clarification to the public too, we do not send dogs to Red Deer. We have a temporary kennel shelter at our public works yard where we house the dogs. We've only had one since the end of June, and it was picked up in two days, I think. So we would not send them out to a temporary contract we have with the provider in Red Deer until at least 72 hours have passed, because most dogs are picked up within 72 hours.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about, yes, Councillor Hutchinson?
Not a question, just that this responsible pet ownership bylaw was brought forward in, what is it, May 18th of 2021. So it's not a new document. It's been there, and for whatever reason, it's always seems to have been postponed. Having said that, I would be in favor of going forward with the new bylaw as it's written.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Boniface.
The shelter that we've put at the town yard, does it have like access in the winter time that we'll be able to house them and keep them warm?
Not for the winter, it's temporary, it's actually using a lean-to that we've modified. So if council passes this bylaw, we'd be going out to an RFP for the kenneling services. Now, in saying that, the county also actually has a kennel. Clearwater County has a kennel out by the airport that's unused. We've had discussions with Clearwater County, and our staff are going to arrange for a trip out there to look at it, and that's another possible solution. So
Thank you.
we are looking at options. So.
Thank you.
I have another question. So if we wanted to talk about a service level today, about what to do with cats that are on the loose in our community, that's a different discussion than, this just resolves responsible pet ownership for dogs for today, for temporary, and then we can do our next step later, right? It's not to say that we won't do anything, it's just like, so temporarily we can resolve the situation that we're in.
That's correct. So if council passes the bylaw, then we would not focus on cats at all. Now, I want to be a little cautious here. So our peace officers can still deal with distress calls for cats under the Animal Act, under the Provincial Act. So if a cat is injured or hurt, our peace officers would still respond and take care of that. We just wouldn't respond to a complaint that someone's cat is in my yard, type of thing.
Councillor Boniface.
Would we no longer then charge fees for cat licenses?
Under this current bylaw, the way it's drafted, no, we would be dropping cat licenses. It would no longer be a requirement for cat owners to license their cat. And if you actually look at the statistics, our cat licenses have historically been dropping lower and lower each year. So, I mean, that might be an indication a cat owner is not seeing the benefit, even though it's required under bylaw, of licensing their cat. I mean, if it's a house cat and everyone goes out, then there's no incentive, I guess, to really license your cat. So.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? So, if we wanted to maintain our service level, could we not do the bylaw and do an RFP for a secondary service provider? Or you would like us to do this so that we can do our temporary situation and then we can still do an RFP later?
Well, and that's why I think I'm talking about service level, your worship. I mean, because if council still wants us to regulate and control cats, then the current bylaw would just stay in place. And then we would release an RFP for kenneling services that would take care of dogs and cats.
And would we need something in the interim, or would we still be allowed to do what we're doing until we get the RFP figured out? For the dogs, I mean.
Okay. I'm not
so
quite
I'm
understanding your question. You're
Yeah, okay, so my question is if we want to maintain a service level that we address the cats in our community, then this bylaw isn't doing it. But are we being asked to do this bylaw so that in the interim that dogs can be dealt with until we get something else in place?
No, we still can deal with dogs without this bylaw because it's under our current bylaw. So really the question is, does council want to maintain the service for cats? And if council still does or is not prepared to make that decision or needs more time, then we would just release the RFP for the service of cats, for kenneling cats and dogs.
I would still like to see responsible pet ownership for cats in our community. I don't think that there's no problem with the cats, I just think that we're at a point where we need a different service provider because our current service provider isn't able to, or for whatever reason, we don't have a current service provider. I would like to keep our cat pet control looked after in our community, is how I feel. I don't feel that if someone's cats are in my yard, I don't have no recourse, you know, to address the problem. I mean, I can think of recourses, but I don't wanna do that myself, you know. What does everybody else think? Do we not wanna, I mean, we could push it off to service level and discuss it there, but I don't know if I feel like this bylaw is the right direction for us today, if we're only gonna address dogs. If we don't need it for dogs, and we can discuss our service level of, do we wanna pick up stray cats in our community? What does everybody else, Counselor Boniface, did you wanna, yeah.
So, I agree with this. I'm concerned with the cats. I love cats. But it seems that a lot of the problems that we've had with our past service provider was because of cats, and cats being dumped off en masse. You know, here's my pregnant kitty with 6 kittens, and it's hard to find. I don't think we should ignore it. I believe this is definitely a service level review, but I think by passing this, it would give us time for administration to possibly look at other avenues on what we could do to look after cats, and we could discuss it in October. And by then, we would have a plan in place, and since all this is a bylaw, it can be adjusted to, at a later date, to look after the cats in the community. I don't think we want to send a signal out to the community that we don't care about cats, but at this time, we're talking 4 more months here kind of thing, 3 months, that we could do this and get better information.
So, just to clarify, that's not quite accurate what we're doing then. If we pass this, we are not gonna look at cats in the future. Is that correct?
Unless council changes their mind. Yeah, I mean, council can always revisit an issue. Just to give a perspective to council, so in 2022, 5 cats were brought in to the kennel from our protective service officers. So in the entire year, there was just 5. And in 2023, for the first half of the year, was only 2. So, in the opinion of our peace officers, we really don't have a cat problem. And engineering and operations have told me the same thing, because they travel, the whole town every day, that they don't see a cat problem. So it's not, guaranteed. A lot more cats went to the society by people dropping them off for whatever reason, plus people from the county.
Right.
They provide a regional service, just not from the town. But from a town perspective, it's very minimal.
I had a neighbor with an excess of cats, and so our neighborhood still has some cat issues. And I find that they're mostly in the evenings, about 2, when
Well,
they're
yeah.
calling to each other and doing frolicky things.
Well,
Outside my son's window, and he comes in and he goes, "Mom!" But that's fine. I understand that. I mean, that's great. I think I'll go to Counselor Phillips. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree with Councillor Boniface. I think this bylaw is something we need to do for now, and then we can relook at the service level review when we do that in October, and have that holistic discussion on what we do with cats and dogs.
Yeah, Your Worship, and that's the way council can look at it. We could do the bylaw, or council can do the bylaw, and it would be a trial period to see the effects of that bylaw.
Okay. Yep. I'm excellently fine with whatever we decide. I just like to ask lots of questions because I'll get questioned. So, does anybody else have any questions or comments on this bylaw? Would anybody like to make a motion? Counselor Phillips?
Yeah, if we're done with our discussion, I'd like to make a motion that council give first reading to the responsible pet ownership bylaw 2023/12 as presented.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Moving forward in the agenda, we're now at 7.3 to the added agenda item. Counselor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I was thinking of an idea that for Market on Main, we've got 2 dates left, July 27th or August 31st, that I would like council to support inviting Clearwater County or anybody who's available to join us on Market on Main, either one night or both of those nights, just to have that public appearance that, you know, we all do get along and we have a good time together, and if we can share the space with them, that I thought it would be a good idea.
Thank you very much. Did anybody have any questions or comments?
No, no comments. I just think this is a good idea. You know, if we're talking about partnership and collaboration and being good neighbors, I think it's a good thing that we invite the county to participate in the Market on Main booth.
Okay, thank you very much. So, did you have a motion prepared, Counselor Hutchinson?
Yeah, if we could instruct, excuse me, administration to send a letter to the county inviting them to attend with us, so before their July 25th meeting, if that could be done.
I'm just waiting for her to finish typing before I call it. So if there's no further questions or comments on that resolution, I'll call that to a vote. Seeing none, all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. So moving forward in the agenda, we're correspondence for action 8.1, and actually this is a similar item. So a Chamber of Commerce meeting request regarding Marketplace on Main. And so we have a letter from Michelle at the Chamber. And they've discussed possibilities to a partnership with Marketplace on Main. And they're looking for some dates to begin a conversation. And the board, which is just newly elected here the other day, is asking that we meet this summer if possible. How does everybody else feel about that? Yeah, so that sounds great. I think partnering with the Chamber for Marketplace on Main is a nice step forward. So would we just accept for information, or you want a resolution to set dates? Did somebody want to make a motion? Counselor Phillips?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we direct admin to find dates to work with the Chamber of Commerce sooner than later to discuss Market on Main potential possibilities.
Thank you very much. No questions or comments on that motion. I think we're all in agreement that we think we can move forward with this. So I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Thank you very much. I look forward to discussing ways to improve Market on Main with the Chamber. That's awesome. 8.2, there's an agenda item added. So if you look in your email, I've sent the original invitation. It comes from the Consul General of Japan in Calgary. It's for a reception. The reception is because there are 3 groups exchange students with outgoing participants. And one of them is to Kamakawa-Cho, which is our sister city, and a sister city to Lethbridge and a sister city to Stony Plain. If you'll excuse me having to read out the Japanese words. And so they are asking for my attendance, which I would like to attend on Friday, August 4th. And the reason I bring it up today is because I need to know by July 26th of 2023, which would be before our next meeting. So does anyone have any issues with me attending? Counselor, did you want to make a motion
Yeah,
then?
I was gonna make a motion that we, do we need to send a letter to the consul general?
No, you just need to give me permission to attend.
So just permission for the mayor to attend the consul general event on August 4th.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Excellent. So, moving forward, we have correspondence for information. A letter from Cape and a letter, the Rocky Senior Housing Council meeting minutes. Is there any questions or comments on those items? I just wanted to point out that they are asking for a save the date for the Cape meeting for September 11th to 14th. And I am at a home hardware convention from the 12th to the 14th in Ontario. So if somebody would keep in mind, possibly being able to attend that, that would be fabulous. It doesn't have to be decided today, but I already know that I have those dates booked, and so it's always good to give the heads up because the following week is the Alberta Municipalities is the following week or whatever. Anyways, I just wanted to just point those dates out for someone else maybe on council to keep those dates in mind for this event that they're having in Olds. That's all I wanted to point out. Councillor Phillips?
Just as the alternate for Cape, I could make this work if needed.
Okay, fabulous. I just like to give lots of, September seems to be a busy month again with conferences and things, so thank you very much for that, for looking at that. So we need a motion to accept for information 9.1 and 9.2. Somebody like to make that? Councillor Caprero,
I will make that motion.
thank you very much. All in favor? And that's carried. So we are all the way down to 10 for our action list for July 18th, 2023. Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So the first item is the airport terminal building. So we actually have a initial startup meeting scheduled with the architect and engineer and along with Clearwater County staff on August 9th. So that'll be kicking off the design for that project. In regards to council instructed staff to meet with county administration regarding the medical clinic. We actually had that meeting yesterday with Clearwater County staff, and we are now requesting another meeting with the physician group on that matter to basically ask them really what are they looking for here. And then I think we only have one more that's not done, and that's in progress. We're just waiting for the internet to be run into the RCMP detachment for the next step of implementing criminal record check fees. And that is it.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns over the action list? Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the action list for July 18th of 2023 for information. Is there any questions or comments about that motion? So I'll pull that to a vote. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. Do we have any administrative inquiries today? Seeing none, I'll move on. Do we have any notices of motion today? Seeing none, I'll move on. We have some closed session items. So before we break into closed session, I'll call a brief 10-minute recess and allow us to have a break before we go into closed session. So. Yeah. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the July 18th, 2023 regular council meeting. We just came back from recess. And now we need to go into closed session for 13.2 to 13.3. So would someone like to make a motion to move into closed session? Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you very much. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. So we're now going into closed session. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, welcome back to the regular council meeting for July 18th, 2023. And we've just come out of closed session, and I believe we have a motion from Councillor Phillips.
Yes, I have two motions. The first one is to accept the wastewater agreement as presented.
So do one at a time. So does anybody have any questions or comments about that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of the water agreement motion as presented? Thank you very much. That's carried.
And the second motion is to direct administration to bring the discussion of future industrial land projects to a committee of the whole meeting.
Can I amend that to say future industrial land development?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
amendment,
just so
yeah.
it's more clear of what we want to talk about. No, we don't have a date. We're going to leave it up to administration to find what's best suited. Correct, Councillor Phillips? So with that motion there, any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All in favor of that meeting, or motion, and that's carried. Thank you very much. So with nothing further on our agenda today, I would like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.